आर्थिक सशक्तिकरण पर अल्पसंख्यक मामलों के मंत्री द्वारा एक व्याख्यान माला का आयोजन किया गया है, जहां पर वित्त मंत्री अरुण जेटली अपनी बात रख रहे हैं। आइए सीधे वहीं चलते हैं।
Distinct language and a script and should have a right guaranteed to them by the state, and the children of these minorities will have the facilities provided to them to have the primary education imparted to them in their mother language. Equally, an amendment that made it appear that minorities were per se antithetical to the unity of the country was also rejected. Loknath Mishra sought to preface the article with the word, without detriment to the spiritual heritage and the cultural unity of India. This was rejected as it was understood that the cultural and educational rights in the interest of promoting diversity would itself be desirable for Indian democracy and not for any particular cultural unity. On assimilation and integration, a key aspect of the Constituent Assembly debates on the subject, especially post-partition, was the need for minority protection to be coupled with assimilation. In the same way as Dr. Ambedkar's statement, K. Santhanam argued, and I quote, and then in clause 3 of this article, it provided that the state gives aid to education. It shall not discriminate against any educational institution on the ground that it is under the management of a minority, whether based on community or language. And this will be particularly applicable to a linguistic minority. In every province, there are islands of these linguistic minorities. First of all, we have to give large linguistic minorities their right to be educated, especially in the primary stages, in their own language. And at the same time, we should not interfere with the historical process of assimilation. These provisions were then consistently debated in court, and subsequent to the entire development of the jurisprudence, in my view, the key inferences have been the following. One, there was a strong minority protection in the Constitution, particularly in the cultural and the educational rights. Two, these rights were available to all, were deemed particularly instrumental for minorities, the preservation of which was crucial for India's diversity. Three, the right to conserve script, language or culture is necessary, but not in a manner that it acts against the creation of a nation. Four, similarly, the right to establish and administer educational institutions would be concomitant with the responsibility to both provide quality education as well as inclusive education in character. The Supreme Court has placed great emphasis on the former aspect, while it has also touched upon the latter. Given this history of strong minority protection, both in Constitution as well as in the pronouncements of the court, it is imperative that minority institutions also became centers of nation building in a manner that is entirely autonomous and not directed by the state in any manner. As Dr. Ambedkar said in the Constituent Assembly, that they must serve the dual purpose reflected in the Constitution, in the working of the minority protection provisions of the Constitution, that is, maintenance of the distinctiveness of the community as well as integration with the nation as a whole, which furthered the prospect of assimilation itself. Now, having discussed this, because this really provides the framework for the education as a base, this right got expanded to the extent that all institutions established for this purposes by minority communities provided for a large representation for children of minority communities to be educated there, since education in this process really held the key. How do we now, emanating from this, ensure economic empowerment? I deal with this in two approaches which supplement each other. The first, which is essential, is that there is a need for India to grow and grow uniformly. How does India grow faster. The faster we grow, the faster the benefits percolate to every community. There's a lot of discussion as to what India's growth model is. And over the past 2.5 decades, the growth model significantly has changed.
Well, that was Finance Minister Arun Jaitley delivering the 8th Annual National Commission for Minority lecture on economic empowerment of minorities. He was expounding on how that can be done in a country which is, of course, growing the way it's growing at the moment. It is at an inflection point and has been for some time that India could be in a high growth phase where the benefits could percolate down to every section of the community, including minorities as well. But there are other ways as well that the government has undertaken to empower minorities particularly.